I'd like to start our introductions off with our favorite parts of the movie. Star Wars.
Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Yes. At Estatrance.
Hi. I would probably have to say my favorite part of the movie would be the chase scene through the city, where they're jumping off the vehicles. Sir Gesture, what is your favorite part?
My favorite part was probably when, when Anakin, spoiler alert, had to go in and kill all those younglings. It was very emotional for me.
Kim Jamin, what is your favorite moment?
My favorite moment, as I was racking my brain right now to think of one, it came to mind, and it's a weird favorite moment, but it's the moment when Anakin got his spot on the Jedi Council, and they're like, "Oh, but you're not a master." That would have been such an awkward fucking situation. Like, who in there would want to speak after that? Like, just like, I'm not a master. What the fuck, dude? Is there anything about this film that bothered you guys?
As far as maybe like production, story-wise?
Yeah, sure. Story-wise or production, anything you thought might have been enriched, like anything you thought to yourself, like, oh, if they'd have done this, that would have been better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I'm being honest, like, Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman don't have the best chemistry. Like, it doesn't necessarily fizzle. And that could come down to, like, how the director might not have wanted them to, like, touch each other in certain ways, be like, oh, like, let's keep this PG-13. Because I know there was one moment that did kind of bother me where Obi-Wan took, like, I don't know if he was just checking to see if Amidala was still warm or if he was looking for her heartbeat, but he put his hand on her face. Like, he didn't measure her heartbeat on her neck.
But going back to the issues I've had, not so much the acting, but I do really feel like this film didn't need, and this pains me to say it because he's one of my favorite villains, it didn't need General Grievous.
Why so?
I didn't think the whole subplot was Obi-Wan needing to find him and then shoot him in the heart.
So when I was a kid, I thought General Grievous was another, like, Sith. Like, I didn't discover until I watched Clone Wars before, Episode 3. General Grievous is actually a Jedi hunter.
Yeah, no, I got that from him having all the lightsabers. But I do think that the film is more about Anakin Skywalker's turn to the dark side and less about, oh, let's see some action with Obi-Wan. Like, Obi-Wan got all of his fun stuff in the last movie when he was doing all of his detective work. Because I feel like a general consensus with these prequels is they're all a bit too bloated. Like, there's a lot of shit going on. From my opinion, I think that if they didn't have the subplot with Obi-Wan, the film may have been a little bit better.
One of the improvements I thought from the first movie was how they showed Yoda. I think the CGI version was a lot better this time. I know in the original movies they did have puppet work, but those were a lot more masterfully created, and the first one was just pretty awful. So I'm really glad that they went for a CGI version of him this time.
How'd you like his battle with the Emperor, throwing big ass like platforms at each other?
It kind of came out of nowhere. You just see him as like this like old man, and then he just starts jumping around. I'm like, what the fuck?
I legitimately laughed out loud when he hobbled in to the senator's room or the chancellor's room, and then those two guards in red are standing there, and he just like bitch slaps them with the force into the wall, and they're like.
Yeah, and how about Mace Windu, his unfortunate end?
Yeah. It's like, he's evil. Yeah, and I do want to point out that I liked when, after that, Anakin goes to Padme, or after he slaughters all the younglings at the Jedi Council, that what he says is true. He's not lying about all of his actions. Because he said, the Jedi have turned on the Republic, or whatever, I saw them try to assassinate the chancellor. Like, all these things are true. It's just he's been manipulated, and I thought that was well done, in my opinion. It's not like he's lying to himself, where we just saw something happen and then he said something different happened. I like that what we saw was what actually happened.
Yeah. I want to talk a moment about C-3PO and R2. In the show Clone Wars, like, they're very closely, following Anakin and Obi-Wan. And, like, it's even revealed in Clone Wars that, R2-D2 knows all the rebel plans, and they keep not wiping his memory. So it's, like, always, like, troubling when he gets into enemy hands.
Oh, yeah.
And so...
That explains it at the very end. Where they say, wipe the protocol droid's memories, but they don't say anything about R2.
That, for me, kind of begs the question. Anakin has now gone the first 3 episodes and the entirety of Clone Wars making R2-D2 the most important person in the fight against whoever. Just basically the most important droid in the history of the galaxy. And then as Darth Vader doesn't recognize him?
Right.
Well, there's other, like, R2 units, aren't there?
But none of them, like, look like him, apparently. Or, well, I don't know.
Oh, I see.
Because R2, I think the R2 units are pretty old, but, like, every other R unit I've seen has been, like, red or gold or it's like something like, I think, like, for whatever reason, R2-D2 is, like, the only blue and white one.
Good point. And I wonder if they'll do another Star Wars story to retroactively fix that as well.
One thing that kind of stuck out to me was that, like, everyone just followed Order 66, but in later on in the show Star Wars Rebels, which takes place right before Rogue One, because they're working with some old clone troopers, they revealed that Order 66 was, for some of them, through microchips, like, implanted in their brainstems. So for some of the clone troopers, it wasn't their choice to turn on, like, these Jedi that they've been fighting alongside for years and building close relationships
their entire
with.
lives, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Esteban, how'd you feel about Chewbacca's little cameo in the movie?
I always get happy whenever I see Chewbacca. He's probably my favorite.
Is that because he has a beard?
No. I just... I quit kink shaming me, man.
Yeah, you set it up. I had to take it. So.
I think we kind of covered, most of the important players of the film. Of course, it ends with introduction of the twins and saying where they ended up, with Leia going to be raised by Senator Bail Organa, and Luke going to be raised by his uncle Lars.
He really got the short end of the stick there.
And then I like how at the end Obi-Wan says, I'll watch over the boy. But then Luke will later say, and we'll get to this more in depth when we review it, but he says, that old crazy man Ben, or whatever.
Well, honestly speaking too, though, like, Luke growing up, if, like, this guy's not telling you why he's watching over you, you could consider him that crazy old guy who keeps fucking showing up everywhere I go and trying to give me fatherly sage advice. And I'm just like, dude, who are you? Why are you talking that calm tone of voice?
I'm just trying to hit on this girl right now. Like, I don't need this kind of advice right now.
Yeah. In conclusion, I guess, we were saying we wanted to kind of get it out of that sort of movie review mentality. But
yeah, play by play.
But I thought it still would be an interesting point of discussion to kind of say where it ranked on my list, on my Flickchart list. There's a unpaid plug for flickchart.com where you can rate movies and look at your list and go, hey, that doesn't belong there, and rate them again, and constantly do that and not ever be satisfied. But For me, Star Wars Episode 3 surprisingly came in at number 90. I found it to be not as good as Minority Report, but found it to be better than Scorpion King.
Very good. And had I known we were doing this, I would have also had my flick chart up. 'Cause I know for a fact it's on here somewhere.
I'm going to have to get a flick chart.
It's very frustrating.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Yeah, you're gonna spend a lot of time re-rating movies and being like, okay, that definitely doesn't belong there.
Because it's random. It'll just randomly pair off two films. Okay, so since Esteban wasn't here on our last episode, I'm going to ask him the question I asked you, Kim Jamin.
Mm-hmm.
The question was, Esteban,
Mm-hmm.
out of all of the alien races in the Star Wars universe, which one would you want as a friend or a lover?
You can't do this thing. Wait, no. Before I even answer that, what did Ben answer?
He wants a Twi'lek concubine.
Yeah.
No, he said he wanted to be friends with those blue aliens. I forget what they're called.
Oh, the Chiss.
Yeah, the Chiss. And I said I want to hang out with some Jawas because they fucking crack me up.
Yeah. They are pretty funny.
I'm not sure if it's a race or if it was just this one character, but maybe like the shapeshifters.
Ooh, from the second movie.
Yeah.
That's nice.
So I'll just be like...
There are all kinds of
all sorts of... brings a lot of opportunities there.
Yeah, brings a plethora of options to the table.
I like that. I like that idea. I've been Jestro.
Esther Trance.
See you at the movies.